Hey everybody, welcome to the World Audiobook Podcast. We're here to help. Get your book shelved and be a part of the best-selling books. The only podcast that keeps real to be the best version of you. To authors and publishers, join our family and talk about what's good and great. If you are a book reader or a writer, then you'll love being a part of this conversation with your lovely host, Maria Abrinica.
Hello everyone, it's me again, Maria, and this episode I will be reading the book The New Zealand Dream, written by Elise Brook. Introduction. I sit here in a big house, suddenly alone. An eerie silence fills the air. Less than years ago, my home felt like a home. Little feet pounded the floorboards, and a moment's quiet was rare. Maybe you can relate to how the place now feels so empty. I look around. Surrounding me are pictures, photos, memorabilia. So many things that remind me how far I have come and how blessed I am to be here alive. These things trigger memories, stories I thought I'd lock away forever imprisoned in my head and heart. The more I write, the more I remember. I set these memories free. I hear the music play in the background. Emotion starts to stir, filling me with an urgency, a burning need to expose to the light in good, bad, and downright ugly. I'll let you pick. I will introduce to you the people I have met on this journey so far, the lessons I've learned, and the connections I've made. There is a particular song that fills me with a joy and sorrow at the same time. The words tug at my heartstrings pulling hard. You raise me up to more than I can be. I let the words drown out my loneliness and speak to me once more as they did the day I first heard them. They changed my life forever. Growing up was sink or swim. My support network died when I was still young. My mother, my father, my auntie and uncle, and grandparents were all dead before I was 30. The systems rip away the rest. Mostly, I've had no one at all who has stayed. You see, I have played this song many times since the day I first heard it. The days of our lives are sent to try us and test us. Fight we must. And what a fight my life has been so far. I learned to accept this life as a spiritual experience, leaning on the higher power that gives me the weapons I need to win this battle, completing the plan. Now, this fallen angel and wounded soldier's heart lies open. Expose the bleeding. I will share with you the events, stories, battles won, and battles lost so far in this journey we call life. Take the strength and lessons you need in reading this and know that you are not alone. We each have a story to tell. This is mine. Chapter 1, Background. I have often thought that I was born in the wrong era. The music, clothing, and people that have influenced me, have attracted me, are from the 1960s and 70s. By the time Mom decided to have a family, she had traveled the world, become a brilliant nurse, and accomplished her ambitions. My beautiful auburn-haired mother grew up in Port Elizabeth, South Africa. Alex and Molly, my granddad and granny, had a modest tobacco and poultry farm. The farm was surrounded by nearby tribal villages. Mom shared many farm stories. She told us about soldier, red ants marching through the house, devouring everything in sight. She remembered riding on the side runners of the old vintage car, hunting for rabbits. She loved becoming a queen's guide with her sister, taking girl guides camping. These were not peaceful times. Race wars flourished and hate consumed people's mind. Mom's cousin was sent a package one day that blew up in her face. If you walked into the wrong shop, took the wrong bus, or showed up the wrong street, you risked getting a gun pointed at your head at best. Granny loved her animals and surrounded herself with many, from chickens to cats. She would spend countless hours helping the SPCA, although not all the animals were friendly. Mom and her friends took a boat ride one afternoon. The boat was capsized, and in the scramble to get ashore, one of the girls was taken by a giant crocodile right in front of Mom's nose. The croc grabbed the girl's leg, dragged her under, and started to spin wildly. This is the death roll I've told. She never came up again. Granddad was a very stern, tall man who loved to fish. Having served several years in the army, he had a little tolerance and a weak temper. Granny became the peacemaker, ensuring that some things were hushed up to keep Granddad from losing it. Mom told me stories of Granddad's harsh discipline. She told me that Gran and Granddad's relationship was, at times, toxic. Secrets were kept and mothers swept under the mat. Mom had desires to become a nurse. This was not acceptable to her father. He insisted on her being a teacher and would not approve of any other plans. Mom became a teacher and taught English in neighboring villages and schools. Around this time, a party that reached full swing, arguments about who owned what land led to Gran and Granddad's farm being claimed and taken away. All the years of hard work were gone. They lost the lot and received nothing in return. Walking away, they held their heads high. As soon as Mom could, she left home. She was 16 years old when she took a train out of town and fulfilled her dream of training to become a nurse. A very independent, strong, courageous, and outspoken woman. Mom traveled all over the world, Scotland, England, Jerusalem, and the Holy Land. Now, Auntie Jay was different to her identical twin. She too became a teacher, but then she joined a nunnery to concentrate on serving God. Jay soon met an ex-war veteran, Bob. She fell in love, got married, and had 4 children: Drew, Matt, Lynn, and Neil. There was a huge age gap between me and my cousins. Growing up alongside them was awkward. I could not fit in or join in, as I was too young to relate. I did get plenty of hand-me-downs though, and I stood out in my 70s fashion trends in the 80s era. Maybe that's where I got my love for that era. My father grew up in the Yorkshire, England. The youngest of 3 boys, he was a slight, gentle man with a different kind of strength. They live in a small country cottage with their troubled mother. I never got to meet my grandparents on Dad's side, and Dad himself knew them only briefly. During the World War II in the 1940s, his father was called away to fight for his country. Dad would tell me stories about the common bomb raids, sirens, and Nazis' big black boots, tyranny and danger lurking at every corner. My grandmother was left to bring up 3 boys by herself during a depression. She struggled with his greatly, often neglecting her responsibilities. Dad would go to the other houses at around tea time. He would sit under the table to catch any food that dropped. Often, Gran was nowhere in sight or passed out drunk. It took desperate measures for the authorities to notice how dire his situation had become. They soon packed him up and sent him to a boys' home. In those days, homes of this type were not an improvement over a poor home life. They were run by fascists and child abusers. They could often be compared to jails. When he was 16 years old, my father entered his dorm room one afternoon and glanced at a newspaper on the table by the door. He read the headline, "Women Beaten to Death with Fireplace Poker." His father had returned from the war when Dad was 8 years old, but he had a heart attack on the airplane journey home, which killed him instantly. His mother's problems and drinking had increased ever since. That particular night, she got into a heated argument with a man. He lashed out, whacking her over the head with a poker, killing her. This news hit Dad like a ton of bricks. No one told him or warned him. If it had not been for the paper, would he have ever known? End of Chapter 1 of the New Zealand Dream book written by Elise Brook.